Hello, everyone. Today I have Carl with me. So last time we spoke, Carl was jetting off to Vancouver to do a couple talks and get inducted into the Financial Hall of Fame. But I won't explain more about that. I'll hand that over to Carl to explain and introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Great to be here. Let me just, I suppose, give a little bit of background of who I am as a starting situation, because we've touched upon the Hall of Fame. In one hand, I just feel so young to be in the Hall of Fame, but the Financial Hall of Fame is something which recognizes financial professionals that have sort of dedicated their lives. You have to have done 35 years of service, being authorized advisor, and a whole series of other things, not just about advice, but you have to have qualified in certain ways. You've got to have spoken in so many countries around the world, which I can talk a little bit about. And you've also got to have done the right thing in all cases, in particular, raising money for charity. And we have our own foundation that we set up a number of years ago. So I call the whole person. So it was a pretty big thing to be inducted. There's two of us as within the UK as practice and advisors. So it's a very, very small group, and very, very honored. A little bit about, I suppose, who are we? I'm the CEO of a private independent wealth management company called Hartey Wealth Management. We look after not thousands of clients. It's not our marketplace. We look after a small group of boutique families and businesses who generally are considered as high net worth individuals. And we look after the families. So it can be from grandparents all the way down, because to us, the important thing is how do we get money to go from one generation to the next generation without, as of the tax lady or tax man, taking money from them. So that's very much what we do. We have our own investment company called 24/7 Investment Management, which is a discretionary fund management company that manages all of our assets for us that we look after. I do a bit of speaking. As we know, I've been pretty privileged. I've spoken in most corners of the planet over the last 25, 30 years or so. I've written a number of books. The books really cover a whole variety of subjects. Education has been my passion, partly because I wasn't very good at it at school personally. And I made a whole series of mistakes when I was young. And some of those mistakes, if I had only knew, I would never have made them. But there was nobody there to tell me, there was nobody there to help me, and there was no books, there was no education through school. So I created a series of books called All I Need to Know. And they're all you need to know about retirement planning, investment planning, estate planning, is even one which is all you need to know about divorce and financial settlements. It's a bit of a tough sell, but when you think one in two people get divorced, it does okay for itself. And that's really based at my sort of client base. But then I was thinking about this and I thought to myself, what's the fundamental problem? The fundamental problem, there's no education in school. So I created a book called Smart Money for Teenagers. And that book then created, unbelievably, six more books. So I got Smart Money, Smart Investing, Smart Insurance, Smart Legal, Smart Retirement, Smart Business. And then the final one that's just come out is called Smart AI, Beginner's Guide, which is a whole different subject matter for another day. But what we do with those books, we drop 200 books per month into schools. So we go to the school, help them to be educated. And the idea is it's like a what's this? What's that? It's sort of like, what's money? I don't know what money is. Okay. What's a job? What's tax? What's in all of these things. So we create that. That's been interesting, and that's doing very, very well as it's helping. So it is part of our philanthropy side as of this is what we do, giving back. And that led to a few other daft things that I've done from a writing side of things. I've done 4 Gumball 3000s, which is mad stuff that I do. So I sort of did the 4 stories about, racing a car from Miami to Ibiza in 6 days, 3,600 miles of sort of planes, trains, and automobiles as we went here, there, and everywhere. And we also created the Molly and Toby children's books, which are about my dogs called Molly and Toby. And it's basically trying to be a laugh a minute story of what it would be like to be a dog going somewhere. And they're all on Amazon. We've now published 22 books in 9 months. And I find it like therapy. It's like one of these things I can do and forget about the stresses because I can just write a quick story. And then I'm using AI to create all my images for me. So that sort of gives you a little bit of who I am. A bit of a mixed bunch, really.
Yeah, nice. Okay, lots of plates to spin. I think that's a fair.
Yeah, all enjoyable. I only do the things I want to do, which is the important things.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, that was going to be my question: is how, when you are spinning so many plates and there's so many different things going on in your life or in your business at the time at all times. So how do you have the energy to keep going? You said you've been in financial services for over 35 years. So how are you maintaining that? How are you keeping on top of everything and still driving a business in a growing direction?
I think if we go back a little bit in time, and I'd say, for anyone who's sort of watching, listening, when you're running a business, it takes over your life, and it should do because you should have, a huge amount of passion. If you don't have any passion, we have to ask the question, what are we doing it for? And it's almost we're just doing it until something better comes along. So the sooner something better comes along, the better, because you need to be out of it. So if you're in it, you've got to be in it. So you need a vision of what's it going to look like. Not now, because at the beginning of businesses, sometimes we're in a situation where there is so much stuff going on, but you need to ask yourself a question and push yourself out a little bit, which is the question I've always used. And it was from one of the coaches that has coached me over the years, a guy called Dan Sullivan. And it was basically, if we were meeting here in 3 years' time, looking back, so we're already into the future, what has to have happened both personally and professionally for you to feel happy with your progress? So we transport ourselves into the future. So I want my business to be doing this, and I want so many employees and turnover and profit. And so you paint a vision. Then you bring it back and say, okay, what has to happen in the next 12 months to be the step to get you there? Because life's just a series of stepping stones to get us to where we want to get to. So then where do we need to be in a year? Where do we need to be in 90 days? Where do we need to be in a month? Where do we need to be in a week? And what do I have to do today to start that journey? Yeah. So once you've got a vision of where you're going to go to, and you can bring it back to what do I have to do today to be the first step to get me there. So what I did back in when I started in business was 1989, and it was just about survival.
Yeah.
And survival was because I was in financial services, I was in sales. It was basically I would knock on every door, I would pick up every phone, because living in a commission only world, if I didn't sell, I didn't eat. And if I didn't eat, I didn't feed the family, pay the mortgage, and so on. So I was really, really busy, but I wasn't being productive. So in 1995, I hired a coach, and I went to the coach, and he said to me, he said, list down every single thing that you do in a day. And I listed it all down. And it was on a big whiteboard. I wrote all these things down, opening the office, making coffee, opening the post, answering fax machines as we had them back then, because emails hadn't been invented, doing all this stuff, getting quotes, doing all these various things. And then he said to me, circle the 3 things you get paid to do. And I said, I get paid to do all of them. He said, let's do it a different way. Look at all the jobs that is worth £10 an hour, £20 an hour, £50 an hour, £1,000 an hour. Circle the £1,000 an hour jobs, which was seeing clients, signing people up, and coming up with marketing and creative ideas and asking for referrals. And he said, everything else is somebody else's job. So create job specs for those things. At this time, I had no employees. Okay. Within 12 months' time, in that period between the middle of 95 and the middle of 96, I took on 4 people. So those 4 people, in the first instance, put my wage bill up from nothing to quite a lot.
Yeah.
but it increased my turnover of the business. My business turnover went up sixfold within a year because I got rid of all of this stuff,
Mm.
because I focused on what we would call our unique ability. I'd call it something different. I think it's a superpower. We all have superpowers. Everyone is different, whether you're a footballer. So if you're Mo Salah, what's his superpower? His superpower is scoring goals and laying on assists for other people. But
Mhm.
if you're a goalkeeper, you have a different superpower. So we need to find out what our superpower is. What is our unique ability? What are we really, really good at?
Mm.
And dedicate our life to only doing the things which is our superpowers.
Yeah.
And everything else is somebody else's superpower because they're really good at it. They love doing it. We hate doing it. But
Mm.
I think the education system teaches us to go, these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses. Now we need to focus on getting your weaknesses better. No, because our weaknesses will just become better weaknesses. We need to say, don't do that, push it to one side. We're only going to focus on what is our unique ability, our superpower. So, bit of a long story
Mm.
to answer the question, but you have to go back in time. So, in 95, I made that decision. And year by year by year, I have just got less and less and less to do. So now I only do what I want to do. So then I can see, it sounds like I do an awful lot. I've got so much more capability to me
Mm.
because with time becomes experience. You get better at doing things. You
Yeah.
create a process to do something because you learn how to streamline something. So to write a book, as an example,
Mm.
most people would go, okay, write a book and take me a lifetime. How am I ever going to get the time? Well,
Yeah.
you're never going to get the time if you've got all this other stuff to do
Mm.
first. But if you've removed all of that, so now you can focus on, okay, now all I have to do is this. So you
Mm.
could write a book, or I can show somebody how to write a book and structure a book. So you can do a 200-page book, and also using the modern tools that we have, AI in particular, dictation, various things. You could write a 200-page book, in create your cover, create your images, do the whole thing, and you could have it. If you started at 9 in the morning, we'd have it done by lunchtime, and we'd have it published via Amazon, job done, because we create a process. But we freed up all of that time. So in business, we need to get to a stage of working out, where's our superpower? What are we doing that earns the most amount of money that we can be most creative with? And that's basically how I can spin lots of plates,
Yeah.
because I also now have a support system behind me. So I only have to do the final touches on lots of things because there's people doing what they need to do.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So I want to uncover a few points in that. So when you initially started out hiring people, but also winding back again, when you initially started hiring people, how did you balance the decision between having more people, or maybe having more people and maybe having more money to spend on marketing or advertising and stuff like that? So because I think a lot of business owners really struggle with that is, well, they aren't finding their strengths, so I think I know your answer, but it's, you found your strength and then said, okay, well, if I'm just doing my strengths, my superpowers the whole time, then the business will grow. But I think a lot of people, they try and say, actually, I'm going to just keep going through the trenches and doing the things that I'm not so good at, and then spending more on marketing. So how did you how did you balance that decision? What advice do you have for people that maybe get stuck in the wrong side of it?
Okay, great question. And because I do sort of make it sound dead easy.
Mm.
It is easy if there's some hacks. We need some shortcuts. So
Mm.
hopefully this will provide the shortcuts. Um, so one of the hardest thing, find the right people.
Mm.
The recruitment process is just a nightmare. Then we have the problem of, I bring somebody in, we bring the wrong person in, and then it's like you have to delegate. So we have to learn to delegate. And then it's like, oh, but it's taking too long. I might as well do it myself.
Yeah.
And this is where we beat ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the hack? How do we speed this process up? And there is a tool which is called Kolbe.com, which is KOLBE.com. And it is a process that allows us to work out the type of person that we want to hire. So, dependent on, like in my world, I need reviewers, I need what we call power planners, I need marketing people, I need administration people, I need financial people doing accounts.
Mm.
All those people are obviously different, but they all have different styles, different personalities, different strengths and weaknesses. So putting the square peg in the round hole won't work.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend so much money recruiting people, trying to put people in because they interview so well, but reality is different. You might get lucky once or twice, but you're going to get unlucky more often than you get lucky until you got enough skill set to do it. This Kolbe profile system is the skill set that will generate us and move us on very quickly. So the first thing that happens is everyone that we interview, we do a Kolbe profile test on them. It costs about £50. It's done online. It's basically 36 questions. So part of the process of going through recruitment is they have to do this test. Mm-hmm. Now, backtrack one little bit. We're recruiting for a role. So we go to Kolbe and we say, this is the role that we do. It will then tell us the results of what a test should look like. It's scored in 4 ways. It's a very detailed report. It has 4 areas. One is called a fact finder. One is called a follow through. One is called quick start, and the other one I've forgotten about what it's called. It can come to me in a moment. It's the fourth one's not that most relevant. The first 3 are, which is fact finder, follow through, and quick start. So if you're scored from 1 to 10. Okay. So if you're looking for somebody who's going to be in research, you need a detailed, focused person. So that means they're going to score probably 7, 8 out of 10 in what they call fact finder. You also need somebody that's going to be very detailed and they're going to follow through. So they need to score a 7 or 8 in the follow through. The quick start, for a research person, you don't want a quick start person. You want somebody who's going to go slowly and methodically. They're going to score maybe 2 or 3. So you go to Kolbe and it will tell you, this is your role that you're trying to fill. This is the score that you want. There's a tolerance to it. If that person that you then recruit does not fit that answers, you do not hire them for that job. They may be better for a different job. So we've had people come in and they've applied for one job. We do the profile and say, the greatest respect, this is not the right job for you, but this is the job for you. And then we explain the whys. So you use Kolbe to firstly find what the role what are the answers. Then you do it, you marry the 2 together. Once you can marry the 2 together, you've now got the square peg in a square hole. And it works. The first thing I would say to everyone, go to Kolbe, do your own profile.
Yeah.
You basically 36 questions, you answer them in about 15 minutes. And it's basically, I am in this circumstance, I am most like this, least like that, most like this, least like that. And you go through, it will come up and says, this is you. I've never seen one that does not look right. It's like, is that you? Yes. Is this me? Yes. Will you change? No. We are wired. What goes on up here is pre-wired at birth, and we can't change it.
Sorry to interrupt. I know it's annoying. I will let you get back to the podcast in a second. It's not an ad. I just wanted to let you know that I have taken our sales assessment process, step-by-step guide of how to assess salespeople and put it into a PDF for you, as we're talking about salespeople and strengths and weaknesses and what works and doesn't work. So I thought I would put it into a guide so you can assess your sales function and work out how they're performing, where to focus your improvements on. So first link in the description, enter your email. We'll send you the guide straight away. Doesn't cost anything, completely free. But let me know what you thought. I'll let you get back to the podcast now. Yeah.
When people will want to change us, our wives like to change us. It's not going to happen, love. This is the way I am. Accept it. I cannot be changed because I've been pre-programmed. All you've got to do is manage me the best. Put me in the ways that I don't have conflict. Put me in a situation where you will get the best out of me, and then I can be the best version of me.
Yeah.
But lots of people try to put us in the worst version of us, so we then have conflict. So Kolbe is a huge, what I call hack, huge shortcut to get the right people doing the right things. As you then build a team, each person has gone through the process, and then you share the Kolbe profiles with everyone on the team because we're all different. So my I score in my score is a 4493. People need to understand my 9 quick start, because for somebody who's only got a 2 or a 3 quick start, therefore we will have a bit of conflict because my head's going ping, ping, ping with ideas, and they're going, no, we need more detail. So I have to have what you call a bridge. I have to have somebody between me on my leadership position and people who are following me. Because if you've got a gap of more than 5, you have conflict because you're too far away. So sometimes if you look at, if somebody's in a relationship, I'd say have a Kolbe profile done, because if you sometimes find that you're in conflict, it's like, oh, you're not actually compatible. It would be a really good idea that, once all the lust is gone, you actually sit down and go, okay, are we actually compatible for the rest of our lives? Oh, no, we're not. Okay, accept it, move on with things, because it wasn't going to work. We did the Kolbe profiles on our kids when they were about 10, because we knew, obviously, we could tell there was different personality types. One loved doing homework, the other one would never do any homework. How do we get the one who would never do any homework? There was no point shouting at them, as we tried at the time. It wasn't going to work. We had to motivate in a different way because the profiles were different. But once you understand the profiles, you can bring the best out of everyone, which is why when we say find the superpower, find the unique ability, reward it, encourage it. It's like, you got to keep watering and watering and watering to get the best out of a plant, and to get the best out of people, you got to do the same thing. Kolbe is a great way of doing it. So to help people recruit people, grow their businesses, that's a starting point. Then you're looking at sales and marketing. So sales and marketing people, you need a profile. It will look like how it looks, and go, that's the type of person I need to go and hire. Because if you hire the wrong people, they might be over detailed. It's like you've got compliance people trying to do marketing. That's never going to happen. Compliance people are really good at compliance. Marketing people are really good at marketing. You just come back to the football analogy. Is what makes a football team really, really good is you've got 11 players on the pitch, all with unique abilities, where you have a goalkeeper, the best, but you don't play your goalkeeper in central midfield. You don't play your right back up front. And I think in business, when we're starting off, we've got the players, but we don't have them in the right places. And business is exactly the same. Once we've got them in the right places, then our businesses will flourish. But it's just, how do we get there without all this pain and the enormous amount of money that we go through in wastage? And I've been there, worn the t-shirt. The first, until I found Kolbe, I was making mistake after mistake and hire after hire after hire. I've had people who've literally, I had one lady, she came in the morning on the Monday, and she'd left by lunchtime, but didn't come back in the afternoon. And I phoned her up and said, why? And she said to me, oh, you're too short. And I thought, well, I'm not that short. And then she said, no, it's the way you manage people. And it was, we have conflict. And it took me about a year to work it out. But then once I started working things out, I was like, okay, we just weren't compatible. So if you can take that shortcut to hire the right people quickly, then you've got the time now. That's gone. Now I can focus on core abilities, focusing on the marketing side.
Yeah. Okay. So and if you don't do that, then you are essentially building a team of people that are good, but never going to be able to be great. So in the football analogy again, your maximum you'll be able to get is like league, I don't know, two. Whereas if you're trying to become a Premier League team, you need to have everyone in exactly the right position.
Yeah, and if we use carry on the analogy, it's a good way of doing it. What gets you, because life is just continue and never ending improvement.
Mm,
Never ever think you've had your best year. Your best year is ahead of you.
mm,
Our futures are bigger than our pasts. The moment we think our future, once we think our past is bigger than our future, hang up the boots and retire.
mm,
To me, you know, I haven't had my best year. I know it's ahead of me. I've had good years, but I know it's better. I know all these things are going to be better because I get better sort of year by year by year because I I invest within myself.
mm.
It's constant education as of I know I don't know everything, and any opportunity I have to go to a conference, I take the view if I can get one idea, it's worth it. It's another idea, it's an extra 1%,
Mm.
and if I can just add those 1% on top of each other, I will improve and improve. So you've got to constantly improve yourself and invest within yourself,
Yeah.
because you then become the best that you are with things. Equally with your team, if you think of football teams, you get promoted. Like we are pretty close to Wrexham, where I'm sat at the moment, and Wrexham, the story of Wrexham Football Club that had been in the lower leagues for a long, long time. Then some money comes in with Ryan Reynolds and
Mm.
the guy Rob, I can't pronounce his surname, guy, and they came in and they chucked some money. The team that got them out of the Conference League into League One wasn't the team that got them, sorry, from into League Two,
Mm.
wasn't the team that got them from League Two into League One.
Mm.
Because even though they, like, some of these players were incredible, but they had to go because they needed to get other players that were of a higher level.
Yeah.
This season, hopefully, they get promoted out of League One into the Championship. The team will change again. Um, and we have to do the same thing. We've got to constantly keep looking. And I always, when people leave, it's a bit sad, but
Mm.
I see it as a great opportunity. Let's keep on bringing in better people. I don't want to be the brightest person in the room because I
Mm.
want to be surrounded by people who've got all this skill set that I don't have, because I don't want to play the game just to survive. I don't want to play the game not to be relegated. I want to play the game to win. I
Mm.
want to play the game to be in the in the Champions League of football,
Yeah.
because I think within our world we can be, because we've got careers which will last considerably longer than if in the football world. We've got greater control over everything, and if you've got this, you've got a big vision, you've got lots of focus, that will create longevity. And if you've got longevity, you've got enthusiasm. If you've got enthusiasm, you've got passion. And if you've got passion, hopefully it again comes out. That helps to attract clients,
Yeah.
because who do clients want to be with? They want to be with people that's going to energize their lives. They want to have a meeting that when they come away, they go, wow, I feel good for that.
Yeah.
Because you've got to keep doing these things. And if you do that, things get better. And that's why your future will always be bigger than the past. And age is irrelevant to everything, whether you're a young guy or you're an old guy.
Mm.
Dan Sullivan of the Strategic Coach, who was my coach for about 20 years. I think Dan's about 81, 82 years of age. He is every day, he coaches people. And he is better today than he's ever been, because he has that inner ability of that amount of passion.
Mm.
And there's many guys out there that are just getting better and better with time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. You've just got to have a positive attitude with things, and don't let stuff get on top of you. Because one of the things I've always said to people when they have a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, is the problem going to matter in a year's time? No. Okay, it's not a problem then. Is it gonna, if they go, yeah, it is. Okay, is it gonna matter in 10 years' time? Is it gonna matter in 100 years' time? Well, no problem's gonna matter. So therefore, it's not really a problem. So let's focus on the solution to whatever it is. However big and ugly it might be, let's just chop away at it, bring it down and go, okay, that wasn't that much of a problem. but we just have to break these things down with
Mm,
things. But we've got to have that vision, because is
yeah,
it going to stop us? Whatever this problem is it going to stop us to get us to where we want to get to?
yeah,
And if it is, okay, let's find a way around it. What's the workaround? Just
yeah,
like if you're going to travel, we're going somewhere, we don't know where we're going, we put it in the satellite navigation system. It tells us we're going to be there in 3 hours, and then there's a problem on the roads, there's a roadblock. Great. Then find a way around it. We're still
yeah,
going to get there. We might not be there on time, but we're
yeah,
still going to get there.
yeah,
And that's the same with business. Stuff comes along and hinders us, but it's just a hinder. It's nothing long term. Just,
yeah,
have that focus, the vision, and know where we're going. Because if we don't know where we're going, we won't get there.
yeah, yeah. And if you stop in that analogy, if you stop and you turn back because of the problem that comes up, then you won't get there. But as long as you keep going, you will eventually. So as long
Yeah.
as you don't give
But you
up.
just need to know where you're going. It's like you can't score a goal unless there's some goalposts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, Carl, a lot of problems that I hear from business owners, CEOs from the whole spectrum of the size of businesses is their challenges around sales and growth. And I think your vision and your passion has helped you in being able to create maybe some more unique strategies in generating new clients and new meetings and selling the clients on these meetings. So can we dive into that?
Yeah. So I think you need the ability to say no
Hmm.
needs to be somewhere centered to your culture if you're involved in sales. When I first started, I only said yes. So anybody and everyone was a client
Yeah.
because I needed to do sales, and I appreciate and understand that. But if you take the longer term view and you said, well, if I carry on doing what I'm doing in a certain way, what will that look like into the future? So, what would it look like in, say, 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And it might be, I've got thousands of customers. Okay, out of those customers, how many are really clients? And
Hmm.
so look at the current business. What does it look like? Where do I make my money? And the old 80-20 law always comes about, that you've got 20% of your clients will generate 80% of your wealth,
Yeah.
which means 80% of your clients are actually only generating 20%
Yeah.
of your turnover. So if we know that, because they are the numbers, why do we take on the 80% that aren't going to be the right fit? So let's start at the beginning. What is a right fit client? So to be a right fit client in my world, I need them firstly to have a minimum amount of money to be investable. Because if somebody's got £50,000 to invest, I would have said yes 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, I really want you to have £1 million,
Hmm.
because it takes me no more time to deal with the 50,000 to the £1 million,
Yeah.
but the return is 20 times difference.
Hmm.
So I need to learn to say no
Yeah.
to the smaller investors, as much as I want to love them and bring them on board, but I would rather pass them on to somebody else who's going to do a better job because they fit their business, they don't fit my business.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, I need to know what is a right fit client. So they need to have a minimum amount of money. They need to have economic growth going forward. They need to be nice people, people that I trust, like, and respect,
Yeah.
because I don't want problems in my business. And I need them to be referable. I want them to refer me to other people just like them, that they have a nice network around them. Because
Hmm.
birds of a feather flock together.
Hmm.
50,000 investors play golf with 50,000 investors, £1 million people play with £1 million people, and so on. So we need to firstly establish, what are we looking for
Hmm.
from our what's our target marketplace,
Yeah.
and then only say yes to those that meet that criteria, and say no, which is goes against the grain because we're having a slow week, a slow month, whatever it might be. But bringing those in, those what should be no's, will
Mm,
clog the system.
mm,
Because the more we bring in, because it's, oh, we'll let this one in because I like them, and I'm let this one in and this one. And all of a sudden, you've got 100 people.
yeah.
That is meaning that you've got to take on more staff just to service them, and they don't make any money because the 80-20 rule
Mhm,
applies. So
mhm,
you've got to almost say, okay, I only deal with the 20%
yeah.
as a starting position.
And do you think you can't establish that ideal customer profile until you've had the customers, or would you recommend people
I
work?
think it depends on where you're starting off
Mm,
with things. If you're in startup and you and you need to see people. There's all, Mr. Seymour and Mr. Sellmore.
yeah,
The golden rules of sales. You need to meet those two people. See more people, sell more stuff. Ultimately,
yeah.
but you can do that to get to a point. But
Mm,
then you've got to keep raising the bar. So when I sold a previous business and took a little bit of time out and came back and started this business. At the time, we took the view that we would take on the first group of clients would be anyone just to put some money in the till. And we would take on 50 clients, but they all had to have over £250,000 to invest.
mhm,
Once that was done, we raised the bar. Now the next batch were 500,000, 750 million. So we did it in steps because trying to find the unicorns, the ones we really want, is a little harder at the very beginning. So I would say step it, that you say, okay, I can take so many on at a lower level, but don't go too low. You will just
yeah.
create problems for yourself over a period of time. Once you then know what you're looking for, then you can start to say, okay, where am I going to attract these people? Where am
Mm,
I going to spend my marketing on them?
mm,
So do we do social media as an example? We don't. We do, so we have a presence, but it's not where we attract clients from, because it's very difficult to be able to, geographically, we do look after people all over the country, but we are mainly, as of 90% of our clients come from our sort of area, which is Cheshire, Shropshire, North Wales area. So we want them to be within driving distance of our offices.
yeah.
It's difficult to do it using social. So what we do it what I call an old-fashioned way, because I started doing this back in 1998.
Yeah.
We run investment educational workshops. So
Mm,
we go to a data company because we know exactly what we're looking for. So we're looking for people of a certain age, who live in a certain type of house, who live in a certain postcode, who drive a certain car, that reads a certain type of newspaper, that invests in certain areas. All of this is public information. You go to a good data company and they can screen all of this. That then creates our data pool. And then that data pool, and it's like a reservoir. If you think of a reservoir, you build a reservoir, there's nothing in it at this stage. It
yeah.
rains, the water pushes up, and eventually there's enough water that will flow over the side and give you a regular flow. We're building a data pool of data, which is our reservoir filling up. Eventually it fills up, and then sort of once a week somebody pops in and says, I now need some help. So
Yeah.
you need to build your data pool, but you need to fill it with the right type of people. Then you market to them. We do it through our investment seminars.
Mhm,
So we invite people to come along. We give a 2-hour presentation. We give away our books because that's providing credibility, because it's
yeah.
like, well, this is a book on this or this or this or whatever it might be. Then through that process, they're invited in for a meeting. If the timing is right, great. But sometimes the timing isn't right. They
Mm,
go back into the reservoir, and we just keep tickling them, feeding them information. Here's a newsletter. Oh, here's an article that might be relevant to you. Oh, this is what's happening at the moment in the stock market. oh, whatever it might be. We keep giving them information, and eventually, over a period of time, and it might be that we saw somebody 5 years ago. Now's the time is right
Mm.
because they've been loyal to their advisor in the short term, but their advisor hasn't done something. They're not doing regular reviews. They're not doing regular switches. They don't have opinions on whatever it might be. They're not updating. So what we got to be is very active in educating and providing information. Information, you can provide it for free, because all you're doing is just feeding, and then they become relevant, and then it's relevant, and then they become ready. So it's sometimes it just takes a little longer with things. So firstly, I'd say identify what the right fit client is. What do they need to look like in your ideal world? Part of your vision of what your business is going to look like into the future.
Mm.
How I got into this, just as an aside, back in 1995, sorry, it goes back way in time. I went to a conference, and there was a guy speaking there. His name was Malcolm Doney, and I owe so much to this guy. I've never met him. He gave this presentation all about doing investment presentations for high net worth business owners. I sat there. I wrote everything down, and it took me 3 years to implement my first seminar.
Okay.
Why? Because my marketplace was wrong. I was doing mortgages and life insurance for families. I didn't have the experience to make the leap. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't have the right qualifications. So I said, okay, in 3 years' time, I'm going to be doing this.
Mm.
So what did I need to do? I needed to learn. I needed to change marketplaces. I needed to learn all of these things. I listed it all out and said, in 3 years' time, it will be done. And it took about 2.5 years to get me to the point. So January 1998, I run the first investment seminar. We got about 35 people that turned up, and it was like, wow, this is okay. It wasn't very good because it was the first. We all know the first is never the best, but I committed to running as of 2 seminars per quarter going forward. And then as I got better and better, I just ramped it up. And then the next bit was, at the beginning, it was like, great, a brand new marketplace, any client will do. And then it was like, no, now I need to raise the standards. I need to raise and make sure. But it all starts with knowing where you want to go to, create the vision, and then
Mm.
pull the bits, just like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
If you, and I expect like an old-fashioned TV that you had to self-tune. Many people won't remember this, but you had to self-tune it, and until a picture appeared. And it's just the jigsaw puzzle that we need to know what it's going to look like, and then we work towards it, and then we course correct, we change a little bit, because if it's not working, look and say, what's the best thing, what's the worst, what do we need to change? And that's a sort of mantra that I've used all of my business life: best, worst, change. What's the best thing about today? What was the worst, and what would I change? So when we finish this, I will sit back and say, what was the best thing? What was the worst thing? And what would I change if I was to do it again? And that, hopefully, over a period of time, there will be more bests and less changes because we get better at it.
Yeah, that constant feedback loop. I think that's something that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people of reflecting on themselves. But I also think what's really interesting in your process is you're different to a lot of other people that I've spoken to in the way that they will go for a lot of eyeballs, and then they try and funnel those eyeballs down into the right people, and then they try and so they're kind of serving everyone, and then saying, actually, we're not going to serve everyone for the full thing. We're funneling it down. Whereas you're saying, actually, this is my market, and I only really care about having my market coming into the funnel, and then you just nurture that market, the ideal customer profile across time, which a lot of people don't do. A lot of people will say, yeah, get as many posts on social media and get me as many views as possible, but only 20% of those views might actually be worthwhile having. So wasted effort.
Yeah. And just 2 things that just dropped into my head, which I just think are relevant as just general advice. And again, a long time ago, I was struggling to get people to, like, I was working crazy hours.
Mm.
I had an office, but I was seeing people in their homes at night till, I know, 9, 10 o'clock, competing with Coronation Street and all that sort of
Yeah.
nonsense. And I went to a coach I had at the time, a great guy by the name of Chris Barrow. And I went to Chris and I explained what the problem was. And he said, take out your yellow pad, which I did. And I'm there with like this. And he said, write this down. He said, write the letter A, write the letter S, and write the letter K. And I thought, so it was literally sort of like
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what does A stand for? What does S stand for? And what does K stand for? Because I'm expecting something big. And he said, no, idiot, ask. And I said, what do you mean ask? And he said, ask them to come to your office and they will. And he said, come back. I went to him every month. And he said, that's your task for the month. Just faced with a problem, ask, ask. So I started asking people to come to my office, and guess what? They all did.
Yeah.
And I don't ever do nighttime appointments again. And because it was the most simplest of things, if you're faced with a problem, ask somebody.
Mm.
And then he said to me, this was the other one, which I thought was really interesting. He said, the only reason you won't do it is because of this. He said, write this down. So I did. And he said, this is the biggest problem that you will have within business. The sooner you get rid of it, the more successful you will be. And he said, write it down. And I said, what is it then? And he said, EGO. So again, I wrote it down. There it was, ego, expecting that E meant something, G meant something, and O meant something. And he said, once you can get rid of your ego, you're free. He said, a lot of people, they hold on to this ego that they create about themselves. He says, nobody cares. No, it's totally irrelevant. Forget you even have one.
Yeah.
And the moment you let go, you are free. And the moment you are free, you can fly and you can then do whatever you want to do. And he said, your ego holds you back. And if you don't ask, you never get. And he said, whatever you're faced with, always ask, because somebody will give you the answer with things, because sharing is caring, sharing helps, everything works, but you've got to ask the questions with things. But the ego is the one thing that holds us back with things. So I ditched mine an awful long time ago, and thanks for, that's very much, so you're grateful for the people that's helped me along the way. And that's where I see myself now, is that I've been helped up to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants within the financial services industry. And I have a responsibility, because as I was holding my hand up to be pushed up, taken up the ladder, I've got a responsibility to put my hand down and help other people, because that's what will make the next generation great, because they can learn off the mistakes of all the people that went before them, but ask, and then it works.
Yeah, definitely. Karl, that's been amazing. I think there's so many different lessons in this episode. So for anyone listening, we are going to do another episode as well, where we talk about some other actionable insights around the technology of today and how Karl's implementing that into the business. But Karl, anything that you'd like to share about the next 12 months for yourself, and any final thoughts?
I think we're very optimistic about the next 12 months, because it's all part of the plan of where do we see ourselves. And I talked about before about where do you see yourself in 3 years' time. And I think that's a really good starting position. If you don't have a 3-year goal, take a little bit of time and work out where you want to be. If you do, well done. But do you have a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal? And most people might get to that stage, but I would ask another question. What's your 25-year goal? Where do you see yourself in 25 years' time? And see, like, to me, when I'm looking at it, when people say, well, you're getting to sort of the age that you're getting to, aren't you thinking of winding down? It's like, no, I'm thinking of winding up. Because I still see there's so much to do. And I think, well, if I can just keep plodding away, where will I be in 25 years' time? If I can keep my enthusiasm, health is very important with things. So I've got to put that right up there as an important thing. But I also think at the same time, the wonders of what's coming through with AI and healthcare and things, I think we are on the cusp. If we don't die of anything stupid in the next sort of 3 or 4 years, we're probably in a point where we will be able to have greater longevity with things. So I would say, as one side, look out and make your future as exciting as possible.
Mm.
And have the biggest, scariest goals. Whatever the number is, you write something down on paper, just double it. Why not?
Yeah.
If you're going to go and do, oh, I want to double my production, great. Why don't we put 10 times it then? It
Mm.
says you're only writing it down, and when you might do 4 times, it's still better than two.
Yeah.
So look and you're at the big, exciting stuff and just get the calculator out and just start saying, so if I increase my revenues by say 10% a year, where will that take me to in the future?
Yeah.
And if I could do 20% a year, what would that take? Whatever it might be. But if you take it all the way out there, then all of a sudden you start to get excited about what the prospects are. So we're just working a plan, which is, from our side of things, what we're looking to do is take on between 25 to 30 new clients per year. We just want to keep raising that amount of minimum investment. We want to maintain the relationship that we have with the family. So it's important that's why we don't look at as a client, we look at the family unit, because we want to be the advisors, not just to either granddad and grandma or mum or dad, but also for the children, because that's where the money is going to go to in our world. And we want it to go from intergeneration to intergeneration without unnecessary taxes. So our view is, how do we find the number of clients? How many presentations do we need to run to attract those? Because once you know your numbers, then the numbers will follow. So there's a lot of sort of a bit of technical stuff in the background. Understand your numbers, understand your averages. And once you've got your averages, work on your averages. If you can increase your average sale by, say, 20% per year, then that's going to help. If you in the assets under management or whatever it might be, but just work the plan. And don't deviate. Don't get sidetracked. Don't get seduced by stuff that doesn't matter. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I wonder about, the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence. It's a distraction. Focus, know where you're going and go there, and don't go off, sightseeing into stuff that doesn't matter. Only do what you're really good at. Don't get your business to get distracted into things that have got no relevance to where you're going to. Don't spin plates that won't generate and bring things back. So, somebody might say, well, what about your books? Yeah, the books, the purpose of my educational books are to help educate my clients and the children and the grandchildren of those clients. And it puts me in a good position, because who else has got all of the, you find another financial planner that's got all the various things that we've taken to bring to make sure. So if you're going to deal with somebody and they're making a decision to deal with this guy or this guy, I think I can put myself a little bit ahead of them with things. So I would say just have a plan, work the plan. Don't think the grass is greener. Don't get seduced by stuff that doesn't matter. And not every day is a good day, but it doesn't matter, because tomorrow is going to be better than it was today. So when you have a bad day, I've always said, don't have a bad day, because if you have a bad day, you have a bad week. But don't have a bad week, because if you have a bad week, you will turn it into a bad quarter. And don't have a bad quarter, because you have a bad quarter, you have a bad year. So let's bring it back to the beginning. Don't have a bad day. And if you do, don't let it become a bad week. Cut it, refresh, reprogram, go again. Don't let it keep festering and festering. Let it go. Stuff does not matter. But sometimes we get so built into this, it's so important. It's like, no, it's not. Just let it go. We have a vision, we have a focus, we know where we're going, and this is where we're going to go to. And don't let people get in your way. So hopefully there's a little bit out of all of that is beneficial to somebody out there. My philosophy of life is, in everything I try to do, if I can help one person, it was worth our time, and it was worth the people who's listening to it at the end of the day. So hopefully there's somebody there that can go, yeah, we made a difference in somebody's life sometime in the future that we may never know about. Just like Malcolm Doney did back in 1995, he changed my life because he did one little thing that we've never even met. But that one idea has produced an incredible future for me.
Brilliant. Well,
Good.
thanks for that, Karl. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one, and yeah, I will put the links of your website, yourself on LinkedIn in the description. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and speak soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.